Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, everyone. Look, if you've been anywhere near the virtual reality community lately, you've absolutely felt the massive shockwaves from Valve's official announcement of their upcoming VR hardware, the Steam Frame. It's safe to say this is the most hyped headset we've seen in years, and it's promising to completely shake up a market that's been largely dominated by Meta. But is it actually the right headset for you? Well, let's find out.
Here's the roadmap for this explainer. We're going to look at what the Steam Frame actually is, break down how its foveated streaming works, stack it up head-to-head against the Quest 3, explore the open SteamOS ecosystem, and finally tackle those huge pricing and launch unknowns.
All right, part 1. Enter the Steam Frame, Valve's next big bet.
Let's be crystal clear right up front. This isn't just some minor iterative upgrade. We're talking about an entirely different architectural approach. It's a standalone headset from the exact same minds behind Half-Life Alyx, and it's running a full version of SteamOS. What that means is the headset practically acts like a literal wearable PC. You can play games natively right on the device, or you can seamlessly stream them straight from your main rig.
And Valve has packed some absolute horsepower into this thing. We're looking at dual 2160 by 2160 LCD panels per eye, a completely wild 144 Hz experimental refresh rate, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor, and 16 gigs of RAM, which, by the way, is double what you get in the Quest 3. But honestly, the real shocker here is the weight. The core alone is just 185 grams. That's actually lighter than a standard baseball. Even when you add the strap and the battery, bringing the whole shebang to 440 grams, that incredibly light front core literally makes the Quest 3 feel top-heavy by comparison.
Moving on to part 2, how foveated streaming works, the killer feature. So, foveated streaming, it sounds like a complex, overly technical term, but let's break it down simply. Now, unlike foveated rendering, which just eases the workload on your graphics card, foveated streaming specifically targets the wireless streaming pipeline itself. By tracking your eyes, your PC only sends the maximum visual data to the exact spot you're actually looking at. And the absolute best part? It completely bypasses that clunky home Wi-Fi router you're probably always fighting with. It does this by using a dedicated 6 GHz dongle that plugs straight into your PC.
Think of your vision kind of like a flashlight in a pitch-black room. First, you have these dual internal cameras that track your pupil's exact location. Then, your PC streams that maximum 4K detail only to that specific, narrow focal point, exactly where the flashlight is shining. Finally, your peripheral vision, the dark parts of the room basically, gets heavily compressed. Since your eye naturally can't process high detail in its periphery anyway, you literally don't even notice the compression. But the system, it saves massive amounts of bandwidth. That's exactly how it pulls off such an incredibly stable low-latency connection.
Okay, part 3, Steam Frame versus Quest 3, the tale of the tape.
So the crucial point we really need to make here is that neither philosophy is inherently wrong, right? They just serve entirely different gamer priorities. The Steam Frame is hyper-focused on flawless PC VR streaming and a completely open PC ecosystem. Its design is modular, it's hackable, and it's all about raw performance. The Meta Quest 3, on the flip side, focuses heavily on standalone mixed reality and a tightly curated walled garden library. It prioritizes all-in-one consumer accessibility right out of the box.
When you actually look at the raw numbers, the Quest 3's full-color pass-through definitely makes it vastly superior for mixed reality gaming out of the box, since the Steam Frame is only monochrome. But Valve fires right back for the hardcore crowd. They include built-in eye tracking, and this is a massive win for hardware hackers, a Gen 4 PCIe expansion port along with a microSD slot. Want to add a custom camera module or maybe slap in a terabyte of extra storage? The Frame actually lets you do it. And, like we mentioned earlier, the total weight still heavily favors Valve's lighter 440-gram package.
To ground all this technical jargon in actual community sentiment, let's look at what VR enthusiasts are saying online. This quote really nails why the PC VR community is so eager to ditch their complicated router setups. A user on Reddit pointed out, quote, "Steam Frame was made with PC VR in mind. Quest 3 and Pro are made as standalone with PC VR capabilities. That's why so many use a third-party app virtual desktop." End quote. It makes total sense. The Quest 3 is a standalone device that can do PC VR, but the Steam Frame? It's built from the ground up where high-end PC VR streaming is baked right into its primary DNA.
But hey, we absolutely must remain objective here. If you're debating what to buy right this second, the Meta Quest 3 still holds some incredible ongoing advantages. If you want to play a mixed reality game, say table tennis right in your living room, you absolutely need Meta's full-color pass-through. Meta also has an established massive library of polished standalone exclusives like Batman and Assassin's Creed. Plus, and this is a big one, it has a known, incredibly competitive price point of $500. And, well, you can just go buy it today.
Moving on to Part 4, the open SteamOS ecosystem, breaking the walled garden. Look inside, and the Steam frame is essentially a wearable Steam Deck. It uses an Arch Linux base, the Proton translation layer for running your Windows games, and x86 emulation on its ARM chip. Honestly, it even supports Android APKs. If that all sounds a bit too highly technical, the bottom line is just this. Valve's entire goal here is to give you access to your existing, massive PC library. No more repurchasing VR editions of games you already own. It's a real game changer. Now, to ensure quality across that massive library, Valve introduced the Steam Frame Verified program at GDC 2026. For developers to get verified for standalone play, their games must hit a strict 90 frames per second target. And this is absolutely crucial, because unlike playing a flat game on a regular Steam Deck where a dropped frame is just kind of annoying, a frame drop in VR, that causes immediate physical motion sickness. So that 90 FPS baseline is completely non-negotiable.
Check out this other community perspective, because it beautifully summarizes the immense faith consumers have in Valve right now. Quote, "Wait for Steam Frame. Don't underestimate the power of Steam. VR has been facing a chicken and egg problem for a long time, and Steam is honestly the only force powerful enough to hopefully solve it." End quote. VR has seriously suffered from this software drought for years. Developers won't make games without players, and players won't buy headsets without games. Many people feel Valve's massive open ecosystem is literally the only force powerful enough to finally break that cycle.
And finally, Part 5, Pricing and Launch Unknowns, the real-world catches.
All right, let's bring the excitement back down to reality and look at how this timeline has actually played out. The hardware was officially announced back in November 2025, and that was followed up by the GDC update in March 2026. However, in a totally unexpected twist, the massive industry-wide AI boom caused a global memory shortage. It basically ate up the exact RAM supplies Valve needed for this headset, and that has severely complicated their rollout, pushing the anticipated official launch window all the way to late 2026.
And because of those specific component shortages, the actual price tag is currently the subject of some pretty wild speculation. We're talking anywhere from $500 all the way up to $1,200. Valve has hinted it'll be cheaper than their older $1,000 Index headset, but we just don't know for sure yet. If this thing lands near the $500 or $600 mark, it aggressively destroys the Quest 3. But if it pushes past $800, it firmly becomes a niche luxury device for hardcore enthusiasts.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a final question to chew on. Are you buying for the highly polished, affordable, mixed reality ecosystem that you can jump into and play right now, today? Or are you willing to wait and invest in the high-fidelity open hardware potential of tomorrow? The answer really entirely depends on what kind of gamer you are. Thanks so much for learning with us today, and keep your eyes fixed on the future.